Hey, it's David, and welcome back to another episode of the Reddit Story podcast.
Am I the jerk for calling out my girlfriend for taking things way too far with her sister? Just to set the stage, I'm 27, and my girlfriend is 24. She's not exactly on speaking terms with her folks or her older sister Emma, who's 31. It's been a bit of a rocky road for them. My girlfriend always felt like Emma was on her case, bullying her when they were growing up. Their mom was often sick and really down, and their dad was hardly ever around because his job had him traveling for long stretches. They weren't rolling in dough or anything, so Emma started working a bunch of jobs as a teenager. She ended up being super strict and bossy about housework and school stuff with her siblings. My girlfriend hasn't let go of the bitterness from those tough days and has been getting back at Emma in small, kind of childish ways. Fast forward to about 6 months ago, Emma marries her guy of 3 years. My girlfriend decides to go to the wedding but plans to be a bit of a handful on purpose. She pulled stunts like waiting until the very last second to sort out her travel plans, making Emma shell out more cash for flight tickets, and couldn't settle on a dress, making Emma buy and return a bunch of them. She didn't stop there either. She went ahead and threw a wrench in some of the wedding plans and bailed on commitments she made. Honestly, I'm not down with any of this. It doesn't sit right with me, and I can't wrap my head around why she'd think it's a good idea. My girlfriend insists it's her way of leveling the playing field with her sister, but to me, it feels like she's just going way, way over the line. The kicker? The night before Emma's wedding, my girlfriend has this long heart-to-heart with Emma's soon-to-be husband, basically warning him about how tough Emma can be. Considering the guy's already got a kid from a previous marriage and they're planning on expanding their family soon, it just seems like my girlfriend's stirring up trouble for no good reason. My girlfriend, right? She decides to have a bit of a serious convo with her sister Emma's husband just before they're about to tie the knot. She goes and tells him that Emma isn't exactly the biggest fan of little ones and kinda hints that she might not be the nicest to them. Now, because of this little bombshell, Emma and her new hubby end up spending a ton of their honeymoon time not chilling on a beach or sightseeing, but arguing. Yep, arguing. The hubby starts getting cold feet about them having their own kids anytime soon, and is also rethinking how much Emma should hang out with his kid from a previous marriage. Fast forward a bit, and Emma gets wind of the fact that these arguments aren't just out of the blue, but started because of what my girlfriend told her husband. As you can guess, Emma is livid, absolutely fuming at my girlfriend. Here's where it gets more complicated. Emma was all geared up, excited to start a family of her own pretty soon, but my girlfriend stands by what she did. She's convinced that she was just saving the day because, in her eyes, Emma's not cut out for the mom gig. When I tried to tell my girlfriend that maybe, just maybe, stirring the pot in her sister's marriage wasn't the best move, she didn't take it too well. She's pretty adamant that she was just spilling the truth, and in her mind, being honest was the best policy, no matter the fallout. Now, because of this whole ordeal, there's tension between me and my girlfriend too. She's not too happy with me for not backing her up. And oh, for those wondering about the family dynamics here, Emma's the eldest of the siblings. After she came into the world, their parents split for a bit, but then decided to give it another go a few years later, and ended up having 3 more kids back to back. My girlfriend's the second in line. And just so you know, there's a youngest sibling who pretty much keeps out of the drama storm brewing between my girlfriend and Emma. Before Emma landed herself a steady full-time job, she was hustling, taking on all sorts of odd jobs to bring in some extra dough. But it's not like she was working 2 or more jobs at the same time. And now onto the updates. So my girlfriend Sarah and I, well, we've been having a bit of a tough time lately. She's been acting out a bit, and it led to some pretty intense arguments between us. Things got so heated that she decided to call it quits and broke up with me. But here's where it gets a bit awkward. We're still stuck living together because we've got this apartment that we share with a couple of other roommates, and I can't move out just yet since my lease isn't up for a few more weeks. Now, diving into the whole saga with her family. It turns out Sarah and her siblings have been at each other's throats quite a bit over her antics. From what I've managed to pick up from their endless bickering and the snippets they've shared with me, it looks like Sarah's been on this mission to cause chaos since they were just little kids running around. Whenever she feels like her sister Emma is getting too pushy or starts laying down the law a bit too much, Sarah's reaction is to go into full-on mischief mode and start messing with her stuff, throwing a wrench in the works on purpose. And the wild part? Emma is totally in the dark about all this being intentional. She's over there thinking Sarah's just a bit on the clumsy side or maybe a tad forgetful, and ends up trying even harder to patch up the messes. But yeah, Sarah's been doing all this stuff deliberately, and what's more, the younger siblings know the score, but just decide to sit back and watch the show without getting involved. On top of that, Sarah hasn't been shy about spreading some not-so-nice chit-chat about Emma, claiming she's got a serious temper, can be pretty nasty, and is always quick to snap. Sarah makes it sound like it's common knowledge that Emma's quick to lose her cool and start yelling. But despite that, people seem to gravitate towards her because she's the go-to person for fixing problems and lending a hand. Emma herself brought it up once, mentioning to Sarah that she's caught wind of the gossip, but never imagined Sarah would take it to the level of messing with her wedding. But the real shocker for Emma was hearing Sarah label her as someone who'd be a terrible mom and claiming she dislikes kids. That hit Emma hard because, in her heart, she's always seen herself as a nurturing type, someone who's pretty great with kids, and she was totally caught off guard by her own sister's cutting remarks. Emma is basically the MVP of the family, stepping up as the go-to person for pretty much everything, whether it's homework headaches, college chaos, or just figuring out how to do adult stuff like paying bills or dealing with bosses. Emma's the one her siblings dial up. Even Sarah, who's got her own beef with Emma, doesn't hesitate to call her when things hit the fan. Case in point, Sarah wrecks her car, freaks out big time, and who's on speed dial? You guessed it, Emma. Emma, being the rock star she is, doesn't just offer a shoulder to cry on. She dives into the trenches with Sarah, guiding her through the insurance maze and making sure she doesn't get lost in the paperwork jungle. Now, despite Emma pulling her out of this mess, Sarah is still convinced she did the right thing by spilling some not-so-flattering tea about Emma to her brother-in-law. The dude was shook because he'd never seen Emma lose her cool. Sarah's thinking, hey, I'm just preparing him for the storm. Now, when Emma shows her true colors, he won't be blindsided, and their marriage will be ironclad because of it. But hey, plot twist. Emma and her hubby managed to patch things up and are cruising along just fine now. Sarah's patting herself on the back, thinking she's the unsung hero of this love story. My take? The brother-in-law probably got a front row seat to the sibling drama show and figured out the family vibe all on his own. Emma's the heart of the family traditions, hosting Thanksgiving feasts and planning those epic family vacations everyone raves about. Then, boom, things go nuclear during an argument, and Emma tells Sarah straight up she's not welcome at the family shindigs anymore. Sarah's feelings are hurt. She complains to their mom, and mom goes off on Emma for stirring the pot. Emma's reaction? Fine, no Thanksgiving at my place. This throws a wrench in everyone's plans, and now the family's giving Emma grief for what they think is a major overreaction. Sarah's chilling, confident that Emma will come around and play hostess with the mostest once again. Meanwhile, I'm on my way out, moving on up and out of the splash zone of this family drama waterfall. Now for next story. Am I the jerk for telling my fiancé to drop his best friends? All right, let me spill the tea about me and my fiancé. He's 23, hails from Mexico, and I'm 20, proudly black. We've been rocking this relationship for almost 2 years, but we actually go way back to when I was just a newbie in high school. We lost touch for a bit, but then got our spark back in 2020. So my guy has this old school buddy, let's call him Juan, who's been his ride or die since their freshman year. My fiancé practically considers Juan family because they've weathered some serious storms together. Now, when we first started dating, my fiancé was straight up with his crew, telling them the N-word was off limits around me because it's just not right. But then, he introduces me to his squad, Juan included, and what does Juan do? Drops the N-word like it's going out of style right in front of me, even though he knows I'm not cool with that. My fiancé kinda just chuckled and was like, oh, I told him not to, and shrugged it off. That was my first taste of Juan, and I was not impressed. Fast forward to not too long ago, my fiancé is showing me something on his phone, and I catch a glimpse of a message from another one of his friends, Juan. This message was next level rude, basically making a nasty comment about me. I couldn't just let that slide, so I brought it up with my fiancé. Instead of being as upset as I was, he got all defensive. He tried to apologize for Juan's words, but also kinda stood up for him, saying Juan's just like that, always spouting off but not meaning anything by it. He even pulled the "he's been like a brother to me since we were kids" card to soften the blow. I laid it out for him clear as day. If anyone from my circle ever dared to say something racist about him, they'd be history. No questions asked. He said he understood where I was coming from, but also mentioned he's had Juan in his life longer than he's known me. He even floated the idea of cutting Juan off. But here's the catch. They all team up for FIFA gaming sessions, and if my fiancé drops Juan, he's worried the rest of the gang will ghost him too. So in a nutshell, my fiancé is hesitant to cut ties with Juan because he doesn't want to lose his other friends over it. And here I am, stuck in the middle of this mess, trying to figure out what's the best move. And now on to the updates. Big thanks to everyone who's been hitting up the comments with their thoughts and advice. It means a lot that you guys are taking a bit of your time to weigh in on my situation. Now, I'm over here trying to puzzle out how to even start chatting with him about all this again. Every time I've brought it up in the past, he didn't take it too well. He'd get super defensive, almost like a volcano about to erupt, and then bam, he'd launch into this mega rant. He'd start questioning me, asking why I think I can dictate who he hangs out with, and going on about feeling like he's all alone in this world, saying no one's really got his back. Despite the fact that me, his family, and all our friends have been right there supporting him through thick and thin, he did end up saying sorry for losing his cool at me, so there's that. And oh man, now that I'm sitting here, replaying some of the stuff he said during those blow-ups, it's really starting to hit me hard. I could probably fill up a whole new post with just that. But there's one part I really need to talk about. When I first met his dad's side of the family, things kicked off okay, but then his uncle, out of nowhere, starts dropping racist comments, and pretty soon, it's like the whole family's joining in. My fiancé didn't just sit there, though. He stood up, called them out, and got us out of there. It was all so quick, I barely had time to process what was happening. His uncle, who supposedly is totally against racism and the N-word, flipped a switch and went full-on racist. After we got out of there, my fiancé was like, "Why didn't you say I was doing the right thing?" Like he was expecting me to congratulate him for not just sitting there, but actually standing up for me. I mean, shouldn't that just be a given? Standing up to racism should be a no-brainer, not something you do for a pat on the back. And here's the latest update, folks. After 6 months of back and forth, we've called it quits. As of last night, my fiancé is officially my ex. It's been one heck of a ride these last 2 years, and believe it or not, we were actually supposed to tie the knot next month. Just thought I'd fill you all in on the latest. And now for the last story. Am I the jerk for despising my mentally handicapped sister? My sister has autism, and it's the kind where she needs someone with her pretty much all the time, day and night. She can't talk or do things for herself, and even though she's only 12, she can get really upset and break stuff. I know it sounds harsh, but I really don't like her. Saying that feels like it should be wrong, but it doesn't to me. I was just 6 when she was born, and since then, it's like I've disappeared to my parents. Everything's always been about her. I even got moved out of my room to the basement when I was 7 because she had to be closer to our parents. She's broken all my stuff since I was little, and my parents didn't really do anything when I told them. Like this one time, when I was 14, she wrecked a computer my school lent me, and somehow I was the one who got in trouble. On top of all that, I'm supposed to always be there to help out with her, dropping whatever I'm doing, hanging out with friends, forget about it. My parents expect me to be on standby just in case they need me. And if I ever do get a moment to myself but they decide they need me back, I have to drop everything and go. If I don't, I get in trouble. Like this one time I went to see the new Spider-Man movie and turned my phone off. I ended up getting grounded for that. It's like I'm just there to help with her, and nothing about me matters as much. Just last week, I got picked to give a speech at school and I was super pumped. My parents said they'd be there, but they didn't show up because of something with my sister. Whenever there's something important for me, they're too caught up with her. I've been keeping all these feelings bottled up, but they all came pouring out recently. We were chatting about college, and my dad made this joke about me getting a good job so I could look after my sister when they're gone. That just hit a nerve, and I lost it. I ended up crying and yelling about how everything's always about her, and to them, I'm just someone who will take care of her forever. Since then, I've just been in my room, and my parents haven't even come to see if I'm okay. So I'm wondering, am I being unreasonable here? Now for the update. Update. Hey everyone, I'm back just like I promised. My first post really got a lot of you talking, and since you all seemed pretty interested, I figured I'd give you an update. So after I bought that thing I mentioned, I've been staying with my grandpa. This whole week has been really different for me, in some good ways and some not so good ways. Let me break it down for you. I started off by spilling the beans to my grandpa about why I had that huge meltdown. Honestly, he was pretty shocked. Turns out nobody else in the family had any idea that my parents were pretty much using me as a free babysitter for my sister all the time. My grandpa shared some stuff with me that I'm not really comfortable putting out there, but the gist of it is that my sister is actually supposed to be getting help from someone who knows what they're doing, professionally speaking, but my parents have been ignoring that big time. On top of that, I shouldn't have been put in charge of looking after her, especially because she can be really unsafe, both for herself and others. After hearing everything I had to say, plus the story about what happened when I went to the movies, my grandpa was livid. He made it clear that I shouldn't talk to my parents unless he's there with me. He even said he'd talk to them first before we all sit down together. But that's not where the story ends. Throughout the week, other relatives started reaching out to me, filling me in on stuff my parents never told me about. Like, apparently my parents have been getting money from the family to pay for a caretaker for my sister that doesn't even exist. Yeah, this week has been pretty intense. But there's a silver lining because my extended family has been showing me a ton of support and love. more than I've felt in a long time. My grandpa, in particular, has been amazing, trying to make up for all the time I missed out on. He's been encouraging me to hang out with my friends and do things I enjoy. My aunts and uncles have been super supportive too. Then, on Saturday night, I finally had that talk with my parents. It didn't go well at all. They ended up admitting everything to me. So my parents sat me down and told me a bunch of stuff that I'm just not going to repeat here. But let's just say they didn't exactly say sorry. They still seem to think that it's my job to look after my sister, with my dad even going as far as to say that's why I was born. Hearing all that definitely didn't help me keep my cool. I called them out, especially about the whole caretaker situation and the money my dad's been supposedly using for my sister, among other things. They either just brushed it off or came up with some lame excuses. And honestly, things just got even messier between us after that chat. I've made up my mind that I'm done talking to them for a good while. After a long talk with my grandpa and uncle last night, I decided I'm not sticking around. I'm heading over later today to grab my stuff and move in with my grandpa for good. Once I'm done with high school, I'm planning to get out of this state and go to college somewhere far away. My aunt's been super supportive, telling me she'll start sending the money she used to give my dad directly to me now. Since that talk on Saturday, my parents have tried calling me a couple of times, but not once did they say sorry. They just wanted to know when I'd be coming back. But I'm not going back to that. I'm still feeling pretty shaken up by everything that's happened, but I'm starting to think that feeling will fade with time. The rest of my family has been really there for me, and it's been amazing to feel their support. But it's pretty clear I've lost my parents in all this mess. Through all of this, I've come to see something really important. I don't actually hate my sister. I love her a lot. I was wrong to take out my frustrations on her, and I hope I can make things right someday. But for now, I need to step away and start fresh. So that's the latest from me. Huge thanks again to everyone who's been sending love and support my way. It's meant the world to me. Thanks truly. Edit. Thank you all so much. I wish I could respond to every single one of you, but my lunch only lasts so long. I'll update tonight how the move out went. But until then, thank you all. I want to say that your support has been amazing, and your kindness means more to me than anyone could ever imagine, Lead added. Update 2. Man, I never thought my story would blow up like it did. It's kind of become a big deal, and even though I've said thanks a million times already, I really mean it. Thank you, everyone. We just finished moving my stuff out of my parents' place. My grandpa and uncle were super helpful, grabbing everything I decided to take with me. And now, I'm officially living at my grandpa's place. I made sure to grab all my important stuff like my birth certificate, social security card, and any other paperwork I might need down the line. My parents didn't say much while we were there. My dad took off with my sister not long after I showed up, and my mom just kind of floated around, not making much noise while we packed up. It was pretty quiet, but as we were about to head out, she finally spoke up. She broke down, told me she loved me, and that she'd miss me. I gave her a hug, said goodbye, and that was that. Sitting here now, I'm left wondering if she really meant what she said, especially after being so silent all week. She chose the very last moment to speak up. I really hope she meant it. But for now, I think it's time for me to start looking forward, focusing on what's next. Maybe there's a chance for me and my folks to patch things up in the future. Again, I can't thank you all enough for the advice and support. It's truly made a difference. And somehow, I've managed to find a bit of a silver lining in all this chaos. So, who knows? If anything else goes down and you guys are still interested, maybe I'll pop back in with another update. But for the moment, I'm going to try and move forward. To everyone who shared their own stories with me, a big thank you. Hopefully, I'll catch you all on the flip side. Later, Space Cowboys.